I grew up in a working class situation. I was the first to go to college in my family. But my mother, she believed in the American dream. And she took us to the library every day. So we were always reading stories. She said, you can be whatever you want. This is America. You can be whatever you want. And again, we were 6 kids. My father was a moving man. We lived in Astoria, in a railroad apartment. We didn't have a lot, but she planted that in us and we actually believed her.
You're listening to Your Porch or Mine, where everyone's welcome to pull up a chair, share their story, and hopefully leave laughing at life's beautiful mistakes. I'm Diana Suarez Mucci, your host and your friend who's ready to listen, right here on Your Porch or Mine. So welcome to Your Porch or Mine. I'm so excited to have you because the premise of the show really is about storytelling and how stories connect us in so many ways to ourselves, to each other, to the world. So you are one of my favorite storytellers, one of my favorite playwrights. I want to go back to when we first met. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I think we were working with the Dramatists Guild.
Yes.
The Dramatists Guild? Yeah, I think, and we did a one-on-one dramaturgy.
I think it was 2018. But the play was Come and Go, and it was like my first play that I had come back to. And I became a member of the Dramatists Guild, and they had a program, which is, I think, Plays in Progress. And somehow we were matched together in this process. And I could not have been more thrilled. Like, you were perfect for this, and you really gave me some insight. And I just love how you're a wonderful educator. So I want to thank you for that. And I'm still working on it. I'm actually right after you helped me, I did a production of it later that year. You helped me tighten it up, and it was way better than the first time. So
was that in Chicago? Did you do it in Chicago?
Yeah, I did it in Chicago. Yeah, it was. It went really, really well. So it had a maybe a 4-week run.
Did you perform in it? I mean, I know you're also an actor. Did you perform in that?
No, I'm a little bit stage shy. We could talk about you too, because I want to go back to your beginnings. But first of all, so anyway, I want to thank you for that, because this is how we met and we're still connected. I've taken a few of your workshops. I love those online workshops. I'm working on a new play, and the recent workshop that you just hosted was a couple months ago. And I'm still working on that. That's sort of like working on a draft of that. But anyway, thank you for all of it. I want to say cheers, salute to you and to us and to our friendship. Yeah.
My orange wine.
Shlán, tell me, how do you say that again?
Lanja. That's Irish, Gaelic.
I would just really want to start with where you are today. Like, what are you up to? What are you excited about? And then we just go from there.
Yeah. So I'm in a little bit of a pause, coming to the end of a very busy number of months. Opened my play Speak, which is an adaptation of the novel by Laurie Halse Anderson at a small theater company here called Prime Stage. Which was a very involved, very quick commission that I wrote in about a year. And I had a wonderful director, Dana Hardy Bingham, and worked with a dramaturg on this because it was going to be a very quick process. I always like to have a dramaturg on board when I'm doing adaptations to, sort of keep an eye on the original source and help me, with structure and other things that dramaturgs help you see things you can't see. And I had a wonderful ensemble of teenagers who performed in the play. And the author, Laurie Halse Anderson, came and she loved it. She said to me, when I watched your play, the way you told it, it made me feel the way I wanted audience, readers to feel when I wrote the novel. And I was like, that's all. That was all I needed to hear. So that was wonderful. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping to find more, maybe another professional development opportunity or production for the play and then publish.
Yeah, that's exciting. What's the story? Yeah, I want to hear about it.
It's about a teenage girl on the summer before 9th grade. She's sexually assaulted at a party by another teenager. And You really don't know for like 3/4 into the novel what exactly happened to her. She's isolated, she's bullied, she's depressed, she can't speak to her family about what happened. She doesn't tell anybody about what happened, but she has an art teacher who, through an art project that spans the course of the year, she has to draw a tree. She has to investigate the idea of tree. That sort of is the through line through the story. As she finds her artistic voice, she begins to reintegrate what happened to her, and she's able to speak about it. And so it's a very sort of empowering and hopeful story in the end. And even though it's dealing with, dark subjects, sexual assault, bullying, teenage depression, it's told in a very joyful and light way with an ensemble of high schoolers. And so it's really also about being in high school, which is where I sort of intersected, I think, with the play. My older daughter, who's 33, brought it to me when she was in middle school. And then my second daughter, who's 9 years younger, also brought the book to me when she was in middle school. And she was like, Mom, you have to read this book. So I had two of these books on my shelf when they asked me to do the commission. So it was also made into a movie with Kristen Stewart, but never had a stage adaptation. This is the first stage.
Oh, this is exciting. I mean, it's so interesting how it's come back to you.
Yeah.
Like in a different way.
Yeah.
Like later on, and your daughter's 30. I mean, it's interesting how life, it finds you, that story that you should be telling or want to tell. And I do want to talk about how you lean into the teenagers and, how you connected with that story. I mean, what made you say yes to speak into that?
Well, I often write about young people. I mean, teenagers are always I write about families a lot. I write about, subjects, broader subjects through the lens of family. And there's usually a teenager, young adult in the play. I probably have mentioned this to you before. I think I'm kind of stuck at the age of 19 or maybe even younger. I grew up in New York in the 70s and in Queens. So that had a big impact on me, even though I moved out of New York. I live in Pittsburgh. I've been living in Pittsburgh for 30 something years. When Prime Stage had asked me to do the commission, I had already written a number of plays that dealt with sexual assault in different ways. My play Tor Beach, which I think you've read. Again, that one takes place in 1977 during the blackout, the New York City blackout, when Son of Sam was kind of on the loose. And there was a sexual assault in that play. But it's really about sisters and about showing up for your sister and navigating just sort of the chaos of that time period and coming out whole on the other side, I think. And then I have another play called Soldier's Heart about rape in the military. And that was inspired by a friend of mine whose wife deployed to Iraq. I just became very curious about that. And talking with him, he wanted me to help him learn how to write. He wanted me to give him some writing lessons. I said, well, I'll help you if you teach me about the military, because I think I want to write this play. And then he became a really important source for that play. And eventually I kind of brought his character into the play as the ex-husband. I don't make anything up. I just, come near me, I'm going to put you in a play.
I was talking to Bianca Sams not too long ago, and she's she's a playwright and
I've met her actually.
Actor. Have you? She's great. And she was saying something like she doesn't write about her family because she's nervous about how they're going to respond. She doesn't want to go near that. But still with experiences, right, that we always bring as writers and storytellers to our stories. I think I'm curious, and I want to hear more about how you lean in more into some of and maybe more and more as time goes on. Yeah. But the story there's a couple stories. I love Tar Beach, and I want to get to that. But what you're doing today after Speak, I want to hear about your grant and the story that you wrote.
I'm really excited about this one for a lot of reasons, because it I do a lot of different kinds of work, adaptations. I write about things that are happening now, but I always seem to go back to that voice of the teenager in the late 1970s when I grew up. And this play is called The Boy King and Queens. And the Boy King is referring to the pharaoh Tutankhamun, they called him the Boy King because he died at 19. And they found his tomb full of, completely intact, full of a million treasures. And in 1979, there was it was 76 to 79, there was a 7-city tour of the treasures of Tutankhamun. And when the exhibit came to New York, my father, he worked for a trucking company. He was a moving man. That's what we called him. And I used to think that was like a doctor. He's a moving man, but he was a teamster. He was a shop steward. And he supervised the move of the treasures of Tutankhamun into the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He moved the crates in, and he would talk about that, like, oh, I moved in King Tut, he never saw anything in there. He talked a little bit about like the curse of the pharaoh, and I mean, he just would. I never paid much attention to him, honestly, at that time, because I was, a teenager. I was 17, 18, getting out of high school and starting working in the city as a secretary, and it was very precarious, transition time for me. I had wanted to be an actor, like my uncle was an actor in New York, but I had no idea how to pursue that at all. So I was getting out of high school barely. Anyway, so this play was inspired by the Leah Ryan Fund Boost Award, which I received in 2024. I wrote it in 2025.
Oh, okay.
Reading last year. So I had a year to write it.
Congratulations. Big deal.
Thank you. No, it's a great thing. Yeah. And the Leah Ryan Fund people were so supportive and continue to be very supportive of the process. But I wrote the play in response to her play, which is called The Wire. And it's a story about a dysfunctional family of circus performers, high wire act, that every one of them has this recurring dream that they fall off the wire. It's very different from my work. It's more experimental, not linear, really, very sort of spare. But there was a collision between generations and the idea of young people trying to find about dreams and sort of escaping, the sort of place that you're in or that you're stuck in. And there was two young characters and the way they spoke to each other reminded me of Tar Beach. Leah had a very strong New York sensibility, and I feel kinship with her. And we're not related, even though her last name was Ryan. And just to tell you a little bit about Leah, she died in 2008 from leukemia, and she and I would be contemporaries now. Her family, her friends, and colleagues that she worked with when she passed created this fund in her memory, and they give money every year to an emerging writer. A young emerging writer. It's called the Leah, and it's $5,000 to an emerging writer. And that they've done every year. And the Boost Award began in 2024. That was the first time, and they are currently considering the next Boost Award. So this is going to be the second, and it was $10,000 to write a play. So
That's
like,
great.
yeah,
I'll do it. Was it a full length play? So
yeah.
Okay, so then. You got the grant, $10,000 to write the play. Why The Boy King?
Right. So
of Queens, The Boy King of Queen. I love the title.
The Boy King in Queens.
In Queens, sorry.
Yeah. I thought I needed to set it in the 70s because I gave Tar Beach as my work sample. And so I wanted to show that, the play that I'm going to write is going to be make sense to the panelists. And as I was typing out, centering around the transport of the treasures of Tutankhamun into the Met, I thought, oh, that sounds great. They're going to love that. And then I was like, oh my God, where do I get this? What on earth would I write? Because I really didn't have, like I told you, I wasn't interested in what my father did. And I didn't go see the exhibit when it was in New York. I mean, Steve Martin was singing that stupid song, King Tut. I mean, I just was not interested. And it sounded good in the proposal.
But I mean, I think it's so interesting that you pick, of course, not only that time, but the story of King Tut,
Yeah.
because I'm curious about the why of that story
Yeah.
as it relates maybe to your dad, and maybe there's a little bit of trying to uncover the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still digging into that, honestly. Because I knew nothing about Egyptology or King Tut. I did a deep dive, right? I started doing research, and I always begin reading books for young people, like children. I go to the children's section, and I read about King Tut from there. And the reason why I do that is because, it's very easy to read. Obviously, it's for kids, but there's a lot of information that's put in those books. And then I could say, oh, that's interesting. Now I'm going to do a deeper dive into that. But it's a great way to begin research. I always do all of my research that way. I really started doing this because when I was coming up as a writer, I had, my daughter, and I would always take her to the library. And while she was, reading her books, I would like start looking at the shelves in the children's section. If I was working on a topic that I wanted to research, I just started doing that. And it just was really helpful. Anyway, I've started to see parallels between the idea of dying young at 19 and trying to escape a life that's been set up for you. Like, he became Pharaoh when he was 9 years old, when his father died. And that he ruled Egypt and whatever that means for 9 years, and then he died mysteriously. We don't know why. So there's that of the young person, the vitality of that. And there's a scene that I talk about in the play where they go to the museum. Joey Vero, who's the young boy who wants to take his Ray is the main character, wants to take her cross country. He takes her to the museum, and he's pointing out this scene where they're sitting on a riverbank and he's shooting ducks, and you can tell she loves him, and they're just young people that just want to live their lives, and so there's those parallels. But then I started reading about, Egyptology, the religion, the myths, the stories, the metaphors. And the thing that I was struck by right away was this idea that mummifying someone, a pharaoh, is so that they come back to life. And you have to go through these trials and tribulations in the afterlife. And if you get through all of those, you end up in the field of reeds, which is in the West, and that's where paradise is. But one of the first things you have to do is you have your heart. Your heart has to be measured by the feather of truth on a scale. And so if your heart is heavy from bad deeds or, guilt or a life not well lived, it wouldn't balance out that feather. But if your heart is balanced, if you lived a good life, it would balance the feather of truth, and then you can go on into the afterlife. But if it's heavy and it doesn't balance, then your heart would be eaten by this God that was like, had the head of a crocodile, and it's just this weird monster would eat your heart. And then you would cease to exist as if you never were. Everyone would forget that you ever existed. So in my play, Ray, who is the teamster, truck driver, moving man, he's speaking from the afterlife about this period of time, and he's going back to live through it again. And at the end, his heart is measured against the feather. Oh. So that's what I'm working towards. So I'm not quite. I have
some chills.
I have more to dig out there because I just did really just a year of researching and writing it very quickly. And I like to do that because I don't want to think too much when I'm writing. I like to write very intuitively. But now I need to figure out, okay, what am I saying exactly? What is it about that metaphor, that idea, or Egyptology, or how that all worked? I need to know a little more about what I just only know a little bit, that I've just intuitively, now I need to figure it out exactly.
Right. And I'm curious of how Ray, the moving man, how his heart gets balanced out in life. And he's an interesting character because I think, we've talked about your dad a little bit, and you've written your first play about family. Mm-hmm. And I see the theme there in your life and the choices that you make. And I do want to talk about this Egyptology because the very next thing that happens to you right now in your life is there's another grant.
Yes, right. So I'm a resident playwright of New Dramatists, and they offer every year, the Lippman family offers an award called the New Frontier Award, which is a grant for a playwright to go on a journey, to take some adventurous travel. And it can be in connection with a play or not. And it's in spirit of the Lippman family that they love to travel and they were very adventurous. The Lippman family is also connected to John Golden, the producer. They've been longtime supporters of New Dramatists. And so anyway, they offer this every year. And I apply for it every year because I want to travel. And this year I thought, well, what's more adventurous than going to Egypt to go to the Grand Museum, which has just been built and houses all the treasures of Tutankhamun, finally now in one spot. And it's this gorgeous museum. And I read about it like last year and I was like, oh my God, I would love to go to this. But I had no idea that I would ever do something like this. And you can see the pyramids of Giza through the glass wall of this museum. I proposed it. And again, I was like, I'm proposing a travel grant to go see the treasures of Tutankhamun and the pyramids of Giza. And then it also coincided with, I reconnected with a colleague of mine, Dr. Dina Amin, who runs a theater program at American University. She's also the general director of the Cairo International Experimental Theater Festival. And when she discovered who I was, because a mutual friend was connecting us, and she was like, oh my God, is that Tammy from Carnegie Mellon? And I'm like, well, we went to graduate school together. So now we've reconnected, and she invited me to come and teach a masterclass at the festival. So I arranged my travel to be at the festival and explore Cairo and go to the museum and do all of that, but also teach this class to her students. And then the Cairo, this festival is the largest festival in the region for experimental theater. Theater companies from all over the Arab world and all over the world come, and there are performances and workshops and lectures and all that stuff. So it's really a deep dive into the culture and the theatrical forms that they're experimenting with. And I just think I'm going to get a lot of, it's going to broaden my perspective, not only about the story, with all the studying that I'm going to hopefully do, going to the museums and everything, learning a little more about, because you get guides when you go to Egypt. You want to get a guide, and Egyptologists will explain things to you, but also how storytelling is, what kind of forms they're using in their storytelling and stuff like that. I think will inform maybe the theatricality of the play too. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, how serendipitous that you've met. Yeah. Like, it's kind of a theme in your life, actually. So here you are, have written this play, and there's the travel grant. You get it, and now you have your connection, and you're traveling around the time with Dr. Amin. Is it Dr. Amin?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who's a friend and former graduate with you, graduated with you. Like, what are the chances? And then, and then you get to teach the master class. And then really, I love that you're expanding not only your knowledge of Egyptology and actually getting in there. And I mentioned this to you yesterday. I'm like, I wonder if there will be another character that emerges. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm so curious about that. And then even curious about, because there's so many different forms. Like I don't know how much you do experimental theater. I've talked and worked with Amelia Williams, who's more of like that avant-garde, but I love how storytelling has evolved. And I'm really curious about what you're going to find in what the world is doing with experimental theater and how that might change your idea, or will it, about this story that you have to tell.
Yeah. I'm always looking for that concrete reality, but it's my memory of that reality. So that theatricalizes it already. So I write very, very realistic things, but there are always theatrical elements in it. Often there are characters that are not, that maybe speak directly to the audience, or they're ghosts, or there's a poeticness to the language sometimes. Even though it's ordinary speech, it sounds poetic at the same time. So I've always had those elements. I'm mostly a linear writer, and I just think, like, why not now like try different things, right? Try different forms. I mean, the world is changing so fast and so quickly. And it's not the world that I started in the 1970s. I mean, so in some ways, I feel like I'm going back to the 70s just to sort of root myself before I go somewhere else, you know? Like you mentioned the serendipity of things. And that really sums up my life in a lot of ways. Like I don't plan things really for various reasons. I just couldn't plan things for, you know, circumstances, money, time, you know, situation, whatever. But I just sort of put out there like what I'm interested in, what I'm curious about, or what I feel that I want to write about. And then like doing that is like stepping on the path. And I always tell my daughters this, like step on the path and then the path appears, right? But this followed by Egyptology since this started. Like when I first wrote the play, when I first got the commission, someone said to me, "Oh, I guess you're going to have to go to Egypt now." I said, "No, I'm going to the Met." You know, like that's what I researched all of that aspect of it. When I was just in New York last week, this is so weird. I'm walking down the street. It's my last day. I had a 2-day workshop of the Boy King and Queens at New Dramatist. And I'm coming back from dinner and I hear these two women, young women talking behind me. And it's clear she's talking about her mother, just by the way she's talking about it. And she's talking about a trip her mother is going to take. And yeah, I just said, just book it, just book the trip. And then she just went on about Egypt. And I'm like, oh, no, you did not say that. I turned around. I'm like, did you just say Egypt? And I started walking to them because it's just following me everywhere.
Yes.
A rug was delivered to my house yesterday. I didn't order it. It was another block with the same number address. That woman ordered a rug and the rug said made in Egypt. There's some destiny. There's something there. I hope it's good. But I feel like there's something waiting there for me. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like I got to go.
I love that so much for you. And I almost feel like there is another story. The next story is going to be your story of your journey to Egypt.
Maybe. I don't know.
And what you find there. Ooh.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of, trepidation about it too. Like just kind of given where we are in the world right now as Americans. So there's that. And, but I'm open and curious about having conversations with people outside of this country and, specifically in the Arab world and also reconnecting with my friend from, 1990, we graduated. So I haven't really been in touch with her since then. So there's always these full circle moments for me. And they all lead to, by the end of it, it's a learning experience again. It's about evolving, You got to keep doing that. That's my main goal, is just to stay alive, and then just keep evolving.
I was talking to Emilio Williams, who's from Madrid originally, and he lived in Chicago for many years and similarly says lifelong learning for him. It's all about learning and evolving, right? Like how can we always be curious, learning about new things? So he's like, he's in his 50s and he's like, I can't believe I'm going to get my PhD now. So just because he's being like, he's always curious and always wanting to learn. So yeah, I love that about where you are right now in this journey of your life. And I want to go to, if this is okay, because I just recently read Tar Beach.
Okay.
And I, first of all, was very curious about the title. And I was like, what does this mean, Tar Beach?
So the title refers to the roofs in New York on buildings where they were covered in tar, like black tar. And, it was like, instead of going to the beach, if you didn't have money to get on the train and go to Rockaway or wherever, you go up to the roof. And, my father was, Irish American, working class, grew up in Astoria. And that's where I grew up in Astoria first. And then we moved to this place called Hamilton Beach. And then we moved to Ozone Park. And Ozone Park had a roof, like we could get through the roof through my mother's closet on the second floor. And my dad called it Tar Beach because when he was growing up in Astoria, they would go up on the roof and sunbathe and smoke cigarettes and, get a tan or whatever. So that's something I used to do as a teenager. Me and my friend would go up there and, and smoke my mother's cigarettes and plot our next adventures. but where the play came from was like completely plucked out of my subconscious. And the way it happened was that I was taking a playwriting workshop with Connie Cogden, the playwright Connie Cogden, who is a contemporary of John Ware. And one of the plays I love is the Formicans and Losing Father's Body. I mean, I totally, recommend reading her plays. Very good writer. And also a wonderful teacher. She was teaching, I think, at Amherst. But anyway, for whatever reason, she was giving this workshop. I found out about it. I took the workshop. And I was late. I was late for the workshop. And I come in, and I thought I was going to come in, put my stuff down, and go pee. Sorry, I used the restroom, but no, the door closed, and I couldn't get out. So it was like started right away. So I had a physical discomfort for the entire,
oh my God,
I guess first hour of what the session was, and it was a writing exercise she called On the Roof, and I've used this exercise in my writing workshops a lot also. And she said, you're going to write a 10-minute play today. And I'm going to talk you through these prompts. And so the first thing, there's two people on the roof. Decide what year it is, why they're on the roof, who the characters are. Go, basically. And I immediately went to Tar Beach because I couldn't think. And this was the lesson for me. Because of my physical discomfort, I could not think. And that saved me, because thinking is really the death of creativity. You want to write viscerally. You want to write with your body. You want to write with your subconscious. You want to write from that feeling, not from your head, right? And then, we were writing a little bit, and then she said, stop. Another character comes on the roof. Figure out how the character comes on the roof. They have one line. You have 10 seconds to write it. And so everything was like, you didn't have, even the exercises, like you didn't have time to think. So when she said that, the character that popped up on the roof was my sister. And she came up through my mother's closet, and her line was, Daddy's home. And then she went down. And that each prompt kind of led to the next scene. And I really wrote the whole play in those 10 pages in a way. And Connie Cogden said, go home, don't touch it, don't rewrite it, just type it up and bring it back. And then we read it. And when I did that, I was like, oh yeah, this is a whole play that I should write. And I went home and I wrote the story of the play, like almost like a short story. And then I had to put it away. I mean, I couldn't actually start the play, couldn't write the play. It was just this thing that just came up. And then that was 2009. Then in 2011, I went to Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. It was my first residency. And I went for 2 weeks to write the draft of Tar Beach. And then I wrote it. But it also had a lot of mythology in it also, Greek mythology, because for some reason also on the roof was my Greek mythology project that I did in middle school, which was the head of Medusa. I made this papier mache head of Medusa with, hangers for the hair and snakes, for her snakes in her hair and stuff like that. And that became a metaphor in the play. And I did a lot of research about Medusa and the idea that she is a metaphor for female rage, because she was raped by Poseidon, blamed for it. She got the snakes for hair, and, comes a monster. And that sort of led to the story of the sexual assault in the play, which is fiction, right? It's always a combination of my life experience, some serendipity thing that shocks me into something coming out, then doing research into stories, metaphors, archetypes, myths, and then a plot emerges, and then I follow that. So that's kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's a little bit of my process.
In reading it, it totally makes sense, and I love it. I love how you have created sort of your process or developed your process over time, and that it's a thing.
Yeah, right.
You're like, well, this is my process. I don't think, I just start writing. I love that for just for all writers to sometimes thinking too hard, or just take something from your life. To take a story that either was told to you and you're the story of your sister, I love how she's the one that comes up to the roof and says, Daddy's home. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, Daddy, it's home. We're like, and you're the teenager, like smoking cigarettes, having a wine cooler up the top. And I think it's so fascinating that you're having the art project be your little sister's project. And what happens to her? I don't want to give it away because I think people should read Tar Beach, or just, you got to bring that out again. Like, I think it's great, phenomenal story.
It's published by Dramatic Publishing.
That's right. It's published, and I bought the book. I bought it, and I love it. I love the cover. I just love it so much. And there's a scene, there's a few scenes with your parents in their anger, right? There's the relationship between your parents, and then something that your dad does, which in rage, there's a lot of rage, I think, in that play. But it's also really like there's rage, and it's so deep. Like, I literally was crying through some of the pieces, some of the scenes, and also laughing because I could see myself and see teenagers, but also understanding the parents as a teenager, how much your parents influence you and influence your sort of the basis by which you make choices today, or the things that, like how it all, that comes, like you had to maybe have lived through that for a reason. Like, I look at my childhood and I'm like, why did I go through that? Why did I have these parents? Like, I love them, but like, why these two?
Right. Exactly.
They were nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're still alive, knock on wood. They're okay. I love them to pieces. But back then, you're young and you had all these kids. And I was reading Tar Beach and that family dynamics of how parents are impacting these two little ones, these young people, and really their marriage or, sort of destructive relationship impacts. And I see that in my own family and many families today. And one scene that I thought was like so powerful was the scene where your dad takes the albums.
Yeah. The photo albums.
Yeah.
That really happened. Well, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, right? So first of all, it's hard. It's hard to be a parent. As a parent, you know this, right? Raising kids is hard, and life is hard. And that particular time in the 70s was a very difficult time. And it's very much like it is now. So I think about young families now and people trying to raise kids now, like just the pressures on them. And people are not perfect, but you don't know that when you're in a dysfunctional family. Like, this is just your family, and you don't know that everybody is going through this in some way. So it's only your very unique, you think, particular. And when you write about it very specifically, then other people can relate to it, right? That's the trick. That's the magic to it. In the play, it's really through the teenagers' point of view. So we see their marriage and their fighting and their depression. We don't see it from their point of view. We see it from the teenagers' point of view. So we don't have the whole story. It's kind of like snapshots in a photo album. That's kind of how I thought about it. I didn't know ahead of time I was going to write about the throwing out of all the photos, which happened to me and to my family. Like my mother and father had this horrible fight. And in the course of it, my mother started throwing things away. And then my father, they just threw out all of our family photos. My mother threw her wedding ring in this box. I mean, it was like, I didn't make it up. Again, I don't make these things up. And I was 10 years old when that happened. And I remember after everybody calmed down, I went up to my dad and I said, bring them back in. Bring those boxes. Because my father was a moving man, right? He had the big moving boxes. He put all the stuff in these moving boxes. And I was like, just bring them back in. And he just brought, and I might have even put this in the play, I don't remember, but he pulled out 2 pictures for me. One was my kindergarten class picture and another picture of me. I don't know why. He just reached in, he gave them to me. But they would not bend. They would not bend. Neither one of them would give in, and they let the garbage men take it the next day.
No.
I have always had a problem with photographs. Like, I love photographs. I love images, and I take them, but I cannot like print them out. I can't put them in albums. I can't really organize them. I mean, I force myself to. Like, I have pictures, but like, it's difficult for me to do it the way other people do it. I don't know where they get the time. To me, that whole thing was just, it's so indicative of the stress and pressures that my parents were under at that time, and some people look at that play and go, oh my God, that mother. I mean, somebody said that to me and I'm like, really? Wasn't that your mother? I mean, like, she was doing the best she could, She had 6 kids and it was
Oh
at
my
a
God,
period
you
of
come from a
time.
family of 6?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 6. You're seeing everything. You become the storyteller or the truth teller, right? Especially in Irish American families. They don't speak a lot about where they came from, or there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of buried past. But the oldest daughter in like the second or third generation of Irish immigrants, they become the storyteller, the truth teller.
Those memories still are there, which is why I tend to write from real, like, based on a true story, based on the experiences that I've had, and bring in a lot of that. And then, we can fictionalize a lot of those things and bring in another character and make it less biographical. But I see that, like, even you're leaning toward the 70s, right? You're wanting to maybe go back there. Do you think that as we get older, that we tend to want to go back and take a look and unravel and unpack some of what we experienced?
Yeah, I do. I think that, I have a lot of older friends who really kind of live in the past. Like, I don't want to do that,
Right.
but I feel like there's fertile ground there. So it's like not just something that's happening because of age. Like I've always kind of been trying to unpack all of that as you grow up and then you start to have issues because of unresolved things. And then you have to kind of like go, okay, now where did that come from? And how do I work through that? How do I change the cycle that has started? Right. So, really, I know a lot of writers don't like to admit this, but I really use my writing as therapy.
Yeah.
For myself. Like, why else would I keep doing this? This industry is so insane. It's obviously not for the money, but I work through experiences by writing the plays. And then I find that because I try to be as specific, it's universal, and it helps other people, right? Other people can relate to the stories also. And then I just hope they're just interesting, funny, weird stories. Like, when I tell people about my life growing up, I'm like, how could I not have become a playwright? Like, in these circumstances, there were so many weird things,
Right.
But I think everybody's life is like that,
Yeah.
I think everybody has stories that they have to tell and need to tell and should tell. And I think everyone could be a writer. Everyone. It's just practice and persistence,
I think some people shy away from writing because they think it has to be a specific way. And so they think too much about it before they put pen to paper or, hand to keyboard,
Right.
Which is the case now. And I think so many people now will be leaning toward AI to tell their stories.
I don't even know why you would do that. Like, because the whole point of writing is thinking. And when you do that, you're giving away your thinking. You're giving away your whole process. The whole point is the process. Like, what you discover in the process of wrestling with something, wrestling language, or trying to connect emotion to thought, like all of that, that's the payoff. It's not the thing on the paper. It's that experience that happens it's the journey of doing that, right? I don't know. I'm like so uninvolved with AI and just reading about it and hearing about it. And I do know writers who use it. Like, why would you do that? Like, I know writers who use it to outline material and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's insane, because that's exactly where you discover the play again, in going from the unknown to something, but you doing it, not somebody else doing it.
Right.
I don't know.
You get to the heart of it when you yourself are kind of digging into your own story or other people's stories. That is a whole other topic. AI that I'm learning, I'm in the business world and consulting, and we are leveraging AI more and more as an organization, and our clients are leveraging AI to maybe get to someplace faster, to innovate faster, to, increase productivity, to the output we need it sooner. And maybe there's some analytical advantage. I'm starting to use it more in my day to day for work, and I'm discovering some interesting aspects about it that I think we can leverage. But the danger is in that, like, I heard that there's AI created a whole film, a whole new movie with AI characters, and so it's interesting to see how that's going to evolve, and if what the industry is going to look at is, or even us individually, like, am I going to create the story and then say, AI, help me build the world? Am I still the storyteller? And I think we are still the storyteller. I don't know that you can say AI make up a story, but it may be without the heart
somewhere. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's like processed food. It's not really food. I mean, ultimately, some of it is really not food. And it's the same thing. AI is taking the raw material of other writers and chopping it up and packaging it like a factory and spitting it out. And it's like, Doritos.
that is so true. I mean, I was just lately, I've been looking at, like, and I should have been doing a long time ago. Like, there are wraps, to make a sandwich, right? Like a wrap. So there's one that's like, oh, no carbs or low carbs.
Yeah.
And looking at the ingredients, and it's like a million things that I cannot pronounce, when it should just be flour, water, salt, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, oh, wow, look at what we have been putting into our bodies. And that's going to be like the fake wrap, the fake Doritos, the fake stuff that the output will feel. I think it will feel like this isn't real. There's something missing, which is the truth of it, at the heart of it. There's something missing.
I think it's missing that.
Yeah. I think we're going to see that more and more. I think it'll be interesting because now I'm seeing, online, like, there's something that was created and I go, that's AI. That's not human.
Yeah.
I could sense it. You could just feel it, like it's fabricated. So I know we've come to time. Oh my gosh, how to finish. Wow. I want to do our last sip. We have a last sip. Okay. And there's so much, I could keep talking to you like forever. You're so wonderful. You're so interesting. And I remember when we hung out in Pittsburgh, just a short time, 2 days, maybe 1.5. I loved being with you. Like,
that was so much fun.
You're so fun. I'm going to come back to Pittsburgh and we're going to hang out again. Wow. I want to try to see one of your plays again. You're a fantastic, brilliant writer.
Thank you.
Honestly, the characters, the story, it's always like so real and impactful, and I can relate to it. And I think you're just wonderful. You're yummy. Yeah. So for my last sip, I usually ask a question. Maybe because I know you teach, and you're teaching students and adults, like young people and whatever age. Like, what do you hope? As a last sip, that you can impart to your students wherever they are? What do you want them to know?
Trust their own voice and their own imagination and their dreams, their souls, and that's valid, and they just have to be themselves and tell their own stories. I grew up in a working class situation. I was the first to go to college in my family. There was an actor in my family, and maybe and my father was a storyteller. But, the life that I have now was not like the one that was presented to me as like, this is going to be your life. But my mother she believed in the American dream. To the very end. And she would always say, because she had and she told me later, I didn't really believe this, but I didn't know what else to tell you. And she took us to the library every day. So we were always reading stories. She said, you can be whatever you want. This is America. You can be whatever you want. And again, we were 6 kids. My father was a moving man. We lived in Astoria, a railroad apartment. We didn't have a lot, but she planted that in us, and we actually believed her. That's the basis. Everybody has their story to tell. I really believe that. And you have to trust that when you step on the path, it will appear. And it sounds woo-woo, right? But it's true. Like, if you step on the path and I say, I'm going to write a play about Tutankhamun, and someone says, that's a great idea. Here's $10,000. Now I got to write it. So then now I do the research. That's the next step on the path. And then I write it. And then now I have to go to Egypt. So you have to trust yourself, I think. So that's what I try to do in all of my classes. Like, listen to yourself. Don't think, but listen, get it out. Then you got something to work with. You've made the clay, right? And now you can make something. So,
oh, I love that. You make your own clay. All right, we're going to have a
yeah.
step.
Here's,
Slancha. Did I say that right?
yeah.
Oh my God, that's great. I love it. You're brilliant. And we all have to make our own clay. Hopefully the clay is not made of AI.
Yes. Don't
make our own clay.
Either.
Exactly. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana. I love
it was so much fun to spend time with you and genuinely hear your stories and get to know you a little bit more. You're a wonderful human being. I have so much love for you, and I'm so grateful to know you, Tammy.
Thank you. I wish you lived in Pittsburgh.
Me too. I'm coming out.
So come visit.
If today's conversation made you laugh, think, or just breathe a little easier, share it with someone you love. Catch the podcast wherever you listen and follow me on Instagram for more. Remember, the porch is always open and there's always a spot for you.